Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. It's Frank Mcshane. He's the founder of SquarePeg Consulting. With over 30 years of experience, Frank has helped businesses see their data differently and actually uses it to drive meaningful growth. Over his career, he's helped companies unlock more than $1 billion in cumulative benefits by focusing on profit optimization, strategic alignment, and operational efficiency. At the core of his work is a simple but powerful. Most businesses don't have a data problem, they have a clarity problem. And today, we're here to break it wide open. Frank, welcome to the hashtag Clockedin podcast. After
Thanks, Jordan.
30, yeah, you can go.
Thank you. Go
I'm
ahead.
excited to have you on. After
Yeah.
30 years of working with companies and seeing over $1 billion in impact,
hmm
what's the biggest mistake leaders make when they look at their data?
Yeah, typically they don't look deeply enough in it. They look at the top line, and how's that doing? Is it growing? And they look at the bottom line, and if there's something there close to what they expected, that's about as far as they go. But they don't understand the moving pieces in between those two lines to see what's the real impact, and where does most of that positive or negative impact come from?
And what just for the audience, just to catch them up, what is a top line? What is a bottom line? What's the
Thank
big
you.
difference? Yeah.
So the top line is really the sales or revenue line. That's what they're looking at. Is that growing? And the bottom line is, in my case, is what I look for is cash generated. So some people call that earnings before income tax, depreciation, and amortization. But somewhere in that level, whatever they talk about in different accounting approaches, it's what cash is generated because that's what really makes the business grow and sustainable is generating more cash, right? So you can invest it back in the business or invest it in the people in the business, those types of things. So,
Yeah, it can be very challenging too. There's a
hmm
lot of people who make a lot, have very high revenue, but don't take home a lot of profit. I
That's
think
right.
there's some companies that have much lower revenue and have a lot more profit, which is the companies I'd imagine. And you start to see and break that down kind of how is that broken out? You know what I mean? How is the
Sure.
revenue? Is it one customer? Is it 10 customers? Is it 1,000 customers? Makes a
Right.
big difference.
Yeah, there's the more is more kind of philosophy at work, and that's not necessarily the case. And I actually went through that in myself. I got the privilege of being president of about a $700 million paper company
Oh, wow.
in the Pacific Northwest, and we were not generating a lot of cash at the time. We got bought by a private equity firm, and of course, that's what they're interested in is cash return. And so that was my mission. And we looked at all the products and all the customers and found out which ones really were generating the cash and which ones were not. And the previous philosophy had been to try to be all things to all people and keep all the machines running. Well, that's not, when we looked at the data, that wasn't really a profitable strategy. And so we really narrowed down the focus of the business to the things that really generated the cash. And we went from 700 million losing 70 million a year down to 500 million making 70 million a year
Oh, wow.
and then rebuilt the customer base from there, using knowing what we were looking for a lot better. So much more targeted type of growth.
So it
Uh,
removed a lot of the waste.
yeah,
And
a lot of times the customers, they were high margin uh, products and high margin customers, but they didn't buy very often, and so you got a lot of money once or twice a year. And what we really needed was the low to medium margin that was getting ordered all the time. That's what really generated the cash. And the margin can be a distraction for executives to look at, particularly sales executives. They like margin, but margin without volume doesn't get you much, right? That doesn't do it. And
that's quite
then
interesting.
and then lastly, they don't look beyond that, but the margin, they don't look to see what's the cost to serve different customers. And, some of them are big and easy to serve. Those are good ones to have. And some of them are small and difficult to serve. And those just soak up a lot of time and effort.
Yeah,
to
and a
more
majority of the
money.
time, we don't even realize how much our employees cost,
That's
and we
right.
don't look at it as a per hour basis. Like I think there's one thing I saw where it was this program where basically if you invited someone to a meeting, it would tell you their hourly rate, and you would sit there and you go, "This person makes $200 an hour. Does this make sense for them to sit on this meeting?"
Sure.
Maybe, maybe
Right.
not. And it starts to make you think a little bit differently opposed to where you were before. So
Exactly.
where did you learn all this? Like where did this all begin? Did you just
Yeah. Well, kind of by accident, probably, but I got into training and operations at Coca-Cola Foods early in my career, and that got me really interested in, what makes this thing work, and how do we make improvements and which ones to focus on, because there was always more to do than you had
there's
time to
so
do.
many ingredients, there's so many
Yeah.
different things to try. Where
Yeah.
were you in Atlanta?
I grew up in Atlanta, but I worked for the foods division, which was headquartered in Houston.
Oh, amazing.
And so I went there, but I kept going out west to all the orange groves and the orange processing plants that we had Minute Maid as one of our products. And so I used to go out there, and then I'd get on the plane, go back to Houston. I was like, why did I do that? I like it out west. And over time, I decided to just pick up and move out west. And then I got connected with a
And
kind of a
what
boutique. Go ahead.
yeah, one sec. So for you, that big moment of picking up out west. Like I love how we tell stories and we could have 4 years be 1 minute or 30
Yeah.
seconds. But for you, like genuinely, what was that decision like? Because I know that there's so many people who listen to this podcast who are sitting there going, what made Frank do that? Why did he do that? Did he pray ways a pros and cons list? Did he just go, I like this? And I know it's simple looking back. It's like, yeah, that's what I did. But in the
Yeah.
moment, you're terrified. Like,
A little bit, yeah. I mean, the hard part was, leaving friends and family and all this. And my girlfriend at the time was living in North Carolina, and so, but she was very supportive, which was really great. She's now my wife, so that we made it through that.
oh, that's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. And so but I just loved it out there so much, and I felt like, I'm going to regret it all my life if I don't come out here and see what I can do, see what kind of life I can create for myself. And so I did. So I moved out west, and I was lucky. Like I said, I'd landed a job with a small kind of boutique consulting firm that was really operations oriented. On the shop floor, sleeves rolled up. That's the kind of work we did, and I just fell in love with that kind of work. And seeing, from the ground what really makes a difference, what doesn't, and questioning things like, why are we working on this particular product or this customer? Because we're not making any money doing this. Why are we doing this? We're beating our head against the wall. And so that kind of set the stage. I had some great mentors in that company. They were older, typically older guys. I was good, probably one of the youngest ones in the company, and they just had all kinds of knowledge and ways of looking at things that I didn't
Yeah.
understand until I got
I,
there.
and what was kind of that big takeaway in regard to like we're working on a customer or we have this area or even
Mhm.
for someone listening right now, they might have an area of life where they're like, yeah, I'm spinning my wheels. Like I don't feel like I'm making like yeah.
Sure. Well, I think we've all heard of the Pareto principle, in college or in our education, but the first guy that showed it to me, he was working on inventory, and he was able to show me that only 20% of the inventory accounted for 80% of what was in inventory, but also 80% of what got moved and used in inventory. And that was a key to how do you now balance inventory versus demand, and smooth out your production operation instead of playing, catch up and reactive all the time to orders coming in. And so that was the first one. And then it dawned on me, you could apply this approach to other things. And so whenever I got a P&L to look at, a profit and loss statement, I would immediately sort it in descending order and find out where 80% of the dollars were. And usually it's a small number of lines, right? It's like 20% of the lines account for 80% of the dollars. And then that's where you want to focus is what can we do to impact those because they have such a much bigger impact on the business than goofing around with the little stuff at the bottom of the list. That doesn't get you very far. And then when I had the move to an executive role, then I had that chance to redirect the company. And so that's when we decided let's apply this approach to the customers and the products so we can see what 20% of the customers and 20% of the products generate 80% of the business. And let's really, focus in on those, get better, be as competitive as possible, be the best in those. And let's get rid of some of this other stuff that was really kind of white noise in the business that was taking up time and effort and attention, which you could never get back to place on the more valuable customers, right? It's lost.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because when you start thinking about the 80/20 principle, you start sitting there and going like, if this person who's in the 20% pays me the most, gets the most value, I get the most value from them, and I can provide them the most value, they probably have other high value friends or
Hmm.
referrals, as we
Sure.
would say. Because
Yeah.
when you start looking at it, I was actually speaking to like someone who does consulting, leadership consulting, and the guy was telling me, he goes, my top client referred my second top client.
Yeah.
I'm like, obviously, they're
Sure.
friends. So if you
Yeah.
start moving in with people like that, then you move the other people out, and then all boats will start to rise.
Right. Yeah, and the first option isn't to get rid of a customer, but it's certainly to reduce the cost of those low value customers, right? And just say here, we're going to give you this basic service that's good service, but it's the basic stuff. Like I use the analogy of the airplane, the basic economy customers, they get a seat and a seat belt, and they get there when everybody else does safely. That's it. Anything more you got to pay for, right? And so
Yeah.
you can charge them more, and sometimes they'll self-select out if you start charging them for things that they used to get for free, like inventory or expedited deliveries or small order quantities, those kinds of things that they were used to getting, and that just costs us money.
Yeah.
So if they have to pay for it, sometimes they'll leave on their own. And then you can apply the real service effort to the first class customers who are really the ones generating the cash for the business. And like you said, maybe even get more of them through those contacts.
Uh,
Kind of a little
I,
network, the first class network, I guess you could call it.
no, it's not. It's so true. And
Yeah.
people, I don't want the audience to realize you can apply this to all your things in your life. So if you can find better people, you can get better friendships. You can
Hmm.
do this with the activities that you do. You can do this with almost everything in your life, where the
Hmm.
restaurants you enjoy. You can
Sure.
find the things that give you the most joy and
Hmm.
do more of that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's the lost time piece that really and what really struck me when I was looking at the customers in the paper company, I actually went the top 80% of contribution, which was about 20% of the customers. Then we went to the next 15%, which was about 30% of the customers. And then we went to the very last 5% of the money of the cash generation, and that was 50% of the customers.
Oh my God.
And that's not unusual. I mean, I found that in my consulting work, I found that kind of same pattern over and over again, sometimes even more skewed than that. But what dawned on me is the ratio between the 5% contribution and the 80 is 16 to 1.
Yeah.
You divide 80 by 5, you get 16. So that's the ratio, the profit ratio or the contribution ratio from that top group to the bottom group. And we don't pay 16 times more the attention to the top group that we do the bottom group. Uh, and we're overserving the basic economy customers essentially, and we're underserving the first class customers.
And that's when you're on a basic economy flight and they start handing you the waters. Or
Yeah.
we have extra snacks. Just take the snack.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Instead of
Sure.
just being like, I mean, as a first class customer, it's, hey, here are the snacks. Hey, we got extras.
Yeah,
Hey, when we land, there's actually a car that's going to come pick you up.
yeah.
Like those
You
are all
get
the little
out.
bells and whistles. And when you start to look at it on a very interesting level, there's the
Hmm.
80/20, and then there's also the 96/4. Like if you
Hmm.
go one more. So I bet you there were specific customers that you're like, you should have a direct rep. Like
Yeah,
we should have many
exactly.
people servicing you
Yeah.
guys.
Well, that's exactly what happened. You can actually refocus your sales force, your sales effort, and your marketing effort to the more valuable customers or the ones like them, as opposed to spending effort on the less valuable ones. I've seen clients who were able to reduce their sales force and increase their sales, at the same time by giving their best salespeople much more opportunity with that top group because the effort to land one of those is almost the same as the effort to land one of the less valuable customers, right? So
Yes.
why not put the effort in where it's going to pay off? Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
100%. You want to reap the rewards. I was actually speaking with one of my clients this week, and he was saying how he's like, dude, I have so many calls. Like the other people on the team left, so it's him just running it, and he's got so many meetings. And I'm like, well, how do you
Yeah.
prioritize? And he's like, they're all equal. And I go,
No,
are
they're,
they?
yeah,
Like, how
yeah,
can everyone be equal? Yes, we're all human equal for sure,
sure.
but
Yeah,
there's a value basis on like this makes more money or this doesn't, or this is more profitable or this is more helpful,
yeah.
or these people have a more timely need. And he starts in there and he's like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm gonna move some of these meetings out 2 months. I
Yeah.
go, as you should, as
Or
you should. And it
cancel a few of
yeah,
them.
well, it frees up your schedule and it starts to get you thinking a little bit differently. And
Right.
that's something that you bring up that I think is really interesting is this idea of like how do we get more productive in our own life and in the business life, but also that you say like subtraction can be a win because most of us think I want the biggest plate ever, and until we're 80 years old do we start going, I'm gonna start taking some stuff off the plate.
Right. Yeah.
Because throughout life I've had so many calls where I just see people accumulating. You would think they're at a buffet and they have 27 plates on. You're not gonna be able to eat all of them. You got to pick one to eat.
Yep.
So, how do you think
Yep.
about those?
Same way. You just got to be careful with your time. That's the most valuable resource you have is your time. And where do you want to focus not only your own time, but your people's time in an organization? Where do you want to focus that so that they and you get the best benefit out of it, right? And yeah, not everybody's the same. All revenue is not created equal. All customers not created equal. And so we got to sort of help them see the differentiation, which is, like I said, it's not a hard thing to do. The hard part is now what? After you've got that analysis done, what are you going to change about how you interact with your customers or how you go after new ones based on this new understanding of the value, relative value of them?
Yeah, do you find that once you introduce this 80/20 principle, you start to realize because it was interesting, you're like, I have to be very specific with how I spend my time, or my time is my most valuable asset.
Hmm.
Sure. But then when I'm sitting here thinking about it, I go, there's so many people that are busy from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. So how do they stand up and just see the whole picture and go, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
this is silly.
Yeah. Well, I start out with just asking for data, right? And no judgments, no preconceived notions whatsoever. I just get their own data and then I put it into formats where they can see this relative difference going on. It usually is a pretty much of a shock and an eye opener. I had one client when we did the analysis based on contribution. So profit margin minus the cost to serve. That's how we ranked all the customers. And 11% of them were generating 80% of the contribution, but 71% were only generating five, right?
Yeah.
And they had never looked or thought about it in that, they're all customers were kind of the same to them. And they used to be a small customer, small business, but they'd grown into a much more sophisticated business, dealing with more sophisticated customers. And but they were still trying to treat everybody the same. And when we took them through that, they were like, "Oh my God, we can't we can't handle, the time and effort it takes to service these 71% of the customers the way we have been." And we got to pay more attention to this 11% because and find more like them because that's what's going to help grow the business is to do that. And
Absolutely. So then what did they do? Did they and so then they start limiting services to them?
yeah, what we did was we took the all the service options that they could deliver and made a list out of those. And then we picked out, okay, what's good basic service, and that's what we would offer to the lowest value group, right? And then we added a few things, just like you were talking about, to the premium economy customers in the middle. And then we had the full list available to the top group, the first class customers, so to speak. And then that's what they started to do. But it was real concrete things like minimum order quantity is a big deal, right? So if you have a small customer who just keeps hitting you with little orders all the time, it's like, okay,
It
stop.
can be a very distracting thing. So we find a lot of distractions in our life.
And costly, it just, handling each order, going to inventory, filling the order, taking it out to deliver it, that's costly, right? So we just said, "Look, we got to put some fences, some rules around these guys so that they can order from us, but it's got to be good for us too to do that."
And,
And
and how has this 80/20 idea worked in like your life? I know it works in regard to the businesses, but I'm saying in the way you think about things, the way you do things, like do you see this come off everywhere? Like,
I still fall into the trap probably of dealing with some, smaller things more than I should, but definitely in my consulting practice, I'm lucky that I've gotten to the point where I can kind of pick and choose my clients a little bit more. We have to have a good relationship, some good rapport going, and the opportunity to build some trust. And they got to be willing to make some changes. That's kind of the first thing I ask them is, how much change are you up for? And if it's like, then it's like, okay, don't, let's don't waste our time here, right?
yeah.
So that's a part of it. And then, personal life, I mean, my family, my wife, and I have two grown kids. Those are the most important things. Next comes the two dogs and a cat, so I'm
I'd see the cat hanging out in the back.
making sure I'm paying attention to them. And then, a smaller group of longer term friends. I have a fraternity brothers from college that was over 50 years ago that we communicate every day on text, and we get together once a year in person back on campus just to maintain those relationships, because those are,
No way.
yeah. So uh, yeah,
What campus is this?
Davidson College in North Carolina, which is
So you'll
home
fly out there once a year.
once a year. Yeah, and I'm kind of the organizer of the deal, and we pick a swath of about 10 years alumni swath, from 1969 to 1979. That's the group we picked. And because I'm right in the middle of that. And when you're in a fraternity, you have friends older than you and friends
Older,
younger than
younger,
you.
yeah.
That's the idea is to sort of get that whole group together. And so we do that once a year. And
And how beneficial do you think that's been for you?
it's been terrific for me, very rewarding because everybody really responded positively to the idea. And I think for most of them, and it's created, little groups spun off from
Subgroups.
that maintain contact on a regular basis, do golf outings, that kind of stuff. So,
And
but
when did and you literally started that after college, or this has been
no, no, I tried to start it in 2020, but then
really
then
COVID?
COVID came and so we shifted to just do it on Zoom. And that turned out to be pretty popular. But as COVID eased up, then that next year we decided we're going to go for it, in person. And so then we did an
Oh, so you just
in-person
connected
one.
back years later.
But yeah, this was like years later. I was like, and some of these guys I'd been in touch with
Of
on an
course.
ongoing basis, right? But for a vast majority, I hadn't seen or talked to them in a while, and they hadn't seen or talked to each other in a while. And so I threw this idea out there, and they jumped on it. And so that's an example of A items, of the 80% value to me personally is
I
paying
love
attention.
that example because you start to realize it's the compounding of so many relationships, so many things, and it's just
Mhm.
once a year, but
Yeah.
there's so many touch-offs from that
Yep. Yeah. It has
when you
been.
get a major outsized return.
Right. I did. I do every time, and we have a blast when we get together. And we've lost a couple of folks, and so, but everybody gets to kind of support each other when that happens, and their families, and that kind of thing. So it pays off at that end of the spectrum as well.
Absolutely. I love that. That's an amazing one. And then for you, when you think about subtracting, how do you think that is a good or bad thing? Because
When I think about what, I'm sorry.
subtraction, like minusing
Subtraction.
things from your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's hard to do things, that maybe you've done and like, but like I said, time is your only resource, really. And as you get less of it as you go along, right? It's getting shorter. You got to be more and more careful about what you spend your time doing. And the only way to do that is to stop doing things. And working with clients, that's one of the first things I work with them on is what can we stop doing today?
Really?
Because all productivity will go up almost immediately if you stop doing some of the things that aren't really paying off much. And but it's just things that are just in a habit of doing, and that's how we do things around here, and we've always done it that way, all those kind of things. So if we can stop some stuff, then that gives us some room and time to really focus on improving the things that matter
Yes.
afterwards, right?
I
So,
think that's so important that you sit there and just take inventory of what's in your life.
hmm
And one of the things, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's Jesse Itzler. He's got this thing
hmm
called the big ass calendar. It's like this huge calendar with the whole year. And I
Yeah,
got it this year. And because I was sitting there and like you go through the year and you're not really sure what's important, what's not important. And then me and my wife, we just kind of go through the activity and it gives you this, I can actually see what's going on. I'm
yeah,
not crazy. I know
yeah,
what's going this time I have available. Let's do something. And it becomes this fun activity, but the
hmm
big thing I think a lot of us struggle with is just deciding what we should do and shouldn't do. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah.
when you were going through that journey of leaving Coca-Cola in Houston and going to the Pacific
Right.
Northwest,
hmm
what was the thought there? Because obviously it's like your girlfriend's on the other side of the country who becomes your wife. Like,
Yeah.
like what was the thought? Because I know that's really challenging for a lot of us.
Yeah. Well, the climate was a big factor, and just the nature, the topography here, and just the experience of living out west. Actually, I first moved to the Bay Area, and loved San Francisco. Lived there for about 4 years. I was lucky in that I got to travel a lot with a consulting company, and so I would meet my girlfriend at various places around the country because I was traveling all over North America doing that work, and so we were able to maintain regular contact. And then finally we decided, hey, we really want to live together, and so she was willing to move out west, but we had to pick a neutral site.
Mhm.
Instead of me showing her around San Francisco, we picked Seattle, and because we'd been there, we knew people there, and liked it, and so that was kind of the genesis for moving to up to here, up to up the Pacific Northwest.
That's
And
awesome.
and we loved it. And Seattle was a great time. It was the day, the advent of grunge was happening right when we moved there, and a
What
lot
was
of
that?
activity, grunge music, like
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
those guys. Yeah, so that was a big thing happening, and just the whole environment there was pretty vibrant. Microsoft was really taking off, and
Of
the
course.
city was growing by left leaps and bounds. So that was a lot of fun. And then I joined Ernst and Young there, and in the consulting practice, which was the biggest consulting practice in the world at the time.
What'd you think of that?
It was great. I mean, what a learn. It was like going, being paid to go to school every day. It was really
Yeah.
amazing, and got to deal with much bigger issues and bigger clients, and that was a great experience. And then my last client was the paper company that I mentioned earlier, And at that time I was ready to get off the road because I was traveling all the time.
Oh, as the EY consultant, you're going everywhere.
Yeah, it's the best work and the worst lifestyle all combined together. Yeah. Uh, and my kids were getting towards middle school, so I thought, it's probably time for me to be at home more.
So the 80/20 principle kicked in.
That it did, and being at home was more important. And so I talked to my client, about being a reference, and he said, "Well, why don't we just see if we can create a role for you here at the paper company?" And so then we did that and moved to Longview, Washington, which is where I am now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, been out here 20 years and we ain't going back.
I love it. I love it. And so for you, all of those moments were always 80/20 principles where I mean, a lot of us go like, hey, the work forces us there, but a lot of the
Mhm.
time it's if we can force ourselves to take inventory, and I just say this so the audience can sit there as they're thinking about their life and they're like, what makes sense? What doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
'Cause I want this to be a token of possibility for them to realize like, maybe some of the stuff they're doing is silly. Maybe some of
Hmm.
the stuff they're doing doesn't make sense. And maybe joining like the knitting club would bring them so much joy that it makes a ton of sense. Like
Hmm.
whatever it may be, but it's figuring out who we want to be or
Yeah.
how we spend our time and how we want to allocate it.
Yeah. And what you want to get out of your time, right? I mean, what's the desired outcome that you're looking for? And
Yeah. No,
for me,
absolutely.
yeah, for me, it was just a different lifestyle and different geography and a different, environment to be in. And I was lucky I was able to hang on to my girlfriend, now my wife, and she loves it out here too. And we both came from the Southeast. Whenever we go back, it's always too hot and too humid. So it's like, okay, we're visiting, but we're not moving back.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that. I feel that. So there's five pillars of Edwards Consulting. It's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships.
Hmm.
So on a 0 to 10 today, your mental health, what's it feel like on a 0 to 10 and
I
why?
think it's probably an 8 or so.
Nate,
Pretty good. Yeah, I think it's
what?
pretty good.
Why do you feel it's an eight?
Well, I had some issues about a year ago. Just got into a sleep anxiety situation.
Okay.
I was trying to recover from knee replacement, and I just had trouble sleeping because of that. And then after that, the anxiety kind of developed on its own, right? And so I went through a lot of help and processes to improve that, and now I'm back to pretty close to normal, I think. But
And what was the biggest benefit for you? Just because
getting to sleep was the biggest
no, I
thing.
know, but what was the
Yeah.
biggest challenge? Like, what was the biggest tip or what that the people came up with that
Mhm.
worked for you?
Just to understand anxiety and how that can influence you if you let it, right? And not letting it do that. And then just to help yourself, it's called, I guess, sort of under the general term mindfulness is it's really helping you center yourself and settle yourself down into the present. Because I was always living in the future, being like, tonight, am I going to get to sleep tonight? Am I going to get to sleep tonight? I would be thinking that at 8 a.m. in the morning. Am I going to get to sleep tonight? So it's like, no, no, no. Let's don't worry about that. Let's just focus on each hour and day at a time, and so that's helped a lot.
Wow. So it's moving to the presence that helped you.
Yeah, yeah,
Me-
absolutely.
I just say that because I know a lot of people in the audience have anxiety or have these challenges, and if you have one tip and it's like, oh, dude, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think the mindfulness piece and developing kind of a routine around sleeping that helps a lot. So I read every night. I could turn off the screens uh, about 9 o'clock and then read for an hour or so. That helps a lot. So
Oh, I love that. It's
yeah,
the downtime routine.
yeah,
People
yeah,
don't think about it. We think about a morning routine, but not an evening routine.
yeah,
It,
exactly.
it makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
What about physical health?
Physical health is okay. I mean, I'm getting older, and I have aches and pains. I played college football, so I have a lot of residue from that experience, probably some arthritis and stuff. But generally, okay. Um, I got great blood pressure is good. Cholesterol is like world class low. Um, I work with my daughter and my wife. We take turns walking the dogs, and so getting some regular exercise that way.
I
Yeah.
love that. And what do you think helps you?
Well, having the dogs is a big help. You know, they won't take no for an answer.
They
And
force you out there.
one in particular, our collie, she just has to have her walk every day, and so or she'll pester you to death. And so yeah, that's what triggered most of that.
I love
But
that.
I just want to be able to do things, and I like what I'm doing work wise. Um, and people ask, well, aren't you going to retire? Aren't you going to retire? Well, I don't understand what retirement would really look like. And I'm only working as much as I want to. And I'm working with people, with clients that I really like. So, you know, I keep going.
I'm going to tell you the secret. You're already retired.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't really know how to fill their time a lot of the time, and when
Mhm.
it's in the constraint of like the old world where it was,
Mhm.
hey, you have a job and you have to do this, but when you're in the world of like, I'm just gonna pick up some work and like see what works and see if
Mhm.
I like this, then it's not really work. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. If you love what you do, it's not like work, right?
Yeah, yeah. So and plus it helps people live a lot longer.
Yeah, right.
They really, it
I
is a
think
good thing.
keeps your mind, sharp and
Astute.
sharp.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then community service philanthropy. Is there anything that you guys do or engage in anything, or have you thought
I
about
was
that at all?
Well, I was pretty active when I was in the executive role here locally. I was chairman of we have an old theater here in town that, interestingly enough, it was built like in the mid 20s. It's really a classic, old 800 seat theater,
Oh, wow.
and it was due to be torn down. And they actually had all the equipment there to start the next day. And that's when Mount St. Helens blew in May of 1980. And they had to pull all the equipment up to help out, with the rescues and cleanup after the volcano blew.
Oh, wow.
And so the city fathers at that point, they decided, this is a sign. We can't take this thing down. And so we went through a big, a fundraising and a capital improvement program, and have got it back to just a, you know, sparkling place, great sound, great entertainment. So I was chairman of the board there for a while. I worked with the community college here, which we had a lot of folks joining the paper company from the community college. So I helped with the curriculum there, and worked on their foundation board. And then the Chamber of Commerce, I've been involved with that for many years, and was president of the board for that for a few years. But I've sort of tailed off on some of that. I mean, I did it, and so other people, younger people, are now in place, and that's good. But I still stay pretty plugged in to the community.
And
And
what do you think that's beneficial for you
oh,
or
it's
beneficial for people? Like, should they be part of a group?
sure. I think it's been beneficial for me from a work point of view. That's how when I went back to consulting, that we went through a sale of the paper company, and after that, I decided I'm going to go back into consulting as long as I can stay reasonably local. And that was the first place I started, was with my contacts through these networks, right? Several of them became clients, and that's got me started, under my own business.
But
So
I love that constraint that you said. You go, I want to do the consulting, but only on my terms where I'm not traveling a whole bunch.
yeah,
There's so many of us that don't realize you can create your own life however you want.
yeah, right. Some people assume you can only do it certain ways, and sometimes you just got to challenge your own assumptions about things. So,
100%. I actually did this with so I really wanted to travel more.
mhm.
So last 2 years ago, we ended up going to Europe for 7 weeks, me and my wife, and we would work during the day and just work
Yeah,
remote. That's what we would do,
mhm.
and it was just an easy way for us to do our life because people would be like, "Oh, do you want to meet up?" And I'm like, "Ah, I'm gonna be back in town in like 3 months. Like,
Yeah,
I'll get there when I get there." But it
mhm.
allowed you to do. It's not like anyone said no because things didn't happen. Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't the
right.
case at all.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on the other end of the scale. I'm trying to travel less, and I've already done that. And I've been to all 50 states and most of Canada and
What's your favorite one?
Mexico.
What's your favorite place? I mean,
I
obviously,
think,
besides where you live, but
yeah, I think right here is probably our favorite spot is Washington State.
any city that you like thought was very cool, or any state that you thought was very cool?
I love Northern California. I like a lot. In Central, I got to work in Central California, right on the coast, for a couple of years with a nuclear plant down there, and that's just a spectacular place down there. So that just that whole West Coast thing is my favorite.
I like it. I like it. And then relationships on a 0 to 10.
Oh, good. I don't know. Probably not perfect, but we're at the 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. My wife with my wife, she's very tolerant of me, and most of the time she
How
can.
long have you been married?
Let's see, we'll be at 33 years here shortly.
That's incredible. What do you think's the thing that makes it work?
Well, we were friends ahead of time. We went to Davidson College, but I went 4 years before her. And so when I would go back to visit, that's when we got to know each other, and we were friends. We double dated on occasions, and we just got to know each other really well, and always liked each other. And then she went off. She got married, but then they broke up, and then she went off to the island, to the Caribbean, to work for a while, just kind of get away and refresh, reboot, and then came back, and we ran into each other in Atlanta at some alumni get together, and just hit it off from there again, and picked right back up. And so I think that being good friends ahead of time was really good. Plus, we were, older. I mean, we didn't get married. I was 40 and she was
Oh,
35.
really?
Got married. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so we were mature newlyweds.
It's a different approach. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You've already have the career, you have the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was kind of ready to settle down at that point in time.
That's awesome. And then
Yeah.
spirituality. What
Mhm.
is it? What is spirituality? I mean, is it present, non-present? Everyone's got a different approach.
Well, sort of technically, I was raised a Catholic and still am, and I certainly believe in God. Um, I have, as I get older, I start to wonder sometimes, is there really anything, after this or not? I don't, but if I just, if you just look around and look at the world and even think, just looking at how the human body works, it's kind of like this cannot be by accident, right?
Yeah,
There's got to be a plan of some sort.
yeah.
And so that's my choice, is to believe that there's a higher power and believe there's, somewhere after this that we end up. Because if there's not, you know, I'll never know. It'll be out. But if there is, then that's great. So why not choose to believe in that? I guess is my
Yeah,
philosophy.
I think it gives you a token of possibility. Again,
Mhm.
it's how do you look at the thing? Is it half empty or half full? And
Yeah,
it's, are you stressed out about nothing or are you stressed out about everything? And it's like, how
right.
do you decide what you want to be? Because like
Yeah.
that's the hardest part for a lot of us is there's two people, and I actually just did a post about this yesterday where it's like two people can hear the same exact conversation. One goes, "Oh, that's great," and the other one goes, "My life's over." And it's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And it's just how we interpret things. So it's
Sure.
really important for us to realize what is the most important thing to us and how do we want to see the world. So for you, Frank, you seem like a pretty positive guy. What are some tips or tricks you do to keep that headspace going?
Well, like I said, I think, keeping your close friends and relatives and family close is really important. You need that as much as they need you. Um, and so that's probably the first thing. And then, just trying to look for what's going well as opposed to just what's going wrong all the time. That's one of the outputs of the 80/20 is you get this group of customers or products that are doing really well. And we didn't realize that they're 16 times more doing 16 times better than the other ones. Well, why don't we focus more on those, right? That gives us, and you can be even a little inefficient with those because the payoff is so much better, right?
And the other crazy thing is that we don't realize how many companies do you think are sitting there that need that service that don't even realize what the most important thing is? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying there's so many, but even in your own life, like how many meetings or how many things are you doing that is just not value add?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
which is not beneficial. Or what are you doing that you're like, I freaking love this. And
Yeah.
how do I do more of this?
Hmm.
So I think that's really the question that the audience needs to
Yeah.
who do we want to be? What do we enjoy? And what's the most impactful
Yeah.
thing for us?
And
And
just
right,
be
yeah.
honest with yourself about it, I think is the main thing too, you know.
Yeah, and don't give a what does Jordan want to do or what does Frank want to do? It's what do you actually want to do and what is your most important thing? So Frank, you've obviously had a lot of experience. What advice would you give to someone who's kind of coming up on the journey? I'm 30 years old. Any advice you'd offer?
Yeah. Um, try a lot of different things, I guess would be one thing. Don't be afraid like you have to pick some narrow path and stick to it. Try some different things because you may find out there's something else, that you really like to do better. Very few of us know exactly what we want to do in life, early on. I've known a few of those guys in my life. One of my best friends, he knew he wanted to be a heart surgeon probably from the time he was 10 years old and all through school. I mean, that's everything he's done his whole career. There's not many like that, so you got to kind of experiment a little bit to see what you like and be open to things, even something that doesn't look totally attractive from a work point of view. Maybe it's something you can learn a lot from, right? And use it later.
See what the value add is.
But yeah,
Yeah,
find out and just be open to it. And if it's not, make a change, get out, do something different.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Frank, where can people learn more about you? Where can they learn more about Square Peg Consulting?
Well, I got a YouTube site. I've got a bunch of videos there, little short, like 3 or 4 minute videos on different aspects of business, particularly around the 80/20 rule and the benefits of that. Website is www.sqrpegconsulting.com, and pretty clear explanation about what we do and how we go about doing it there. LinkedIn, oh, always good on that too. So
Absolutely. I'll
those
put
are the
that in the
main
show
ways.
notes.
Yeah, those are the main ways to get me.
Okay, amazing. I'll put that in the show notes. I
Okay.
appreciate you, Frank.
You too, Jordan.
Thank
I've
you.
I've enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you a little bit, and I think you got a great podcast show going here. So
Awesome.